Okay, so we're now recording. Just note that anything you put in the chat box or anything you say out loud will be recorded. If you want to ask me a private question, you can always email me afterwards. I'm happy to answer any questions after the session if you don't feel comfortable being recorded. So we're going to look at some tools to communicate online, such as threaded discussions, Freeform, bulletin boards, sign-up sheets, and chat threads. And then also ways to collaborate online. So things like co-curating resources, co-creating resources, group note-taking, and group brainstorming. So as we go through these tools, think about how you can use them for your teaching, but also think about how they might work for authentic assessment. So many of the tools I'm going to show you today, faculty have used as assessment tools as well. So students are actually using these tools for a project. So think about ways this could be used for you to teach, but also to assess your students. Now, if everybody would like to go to menti.com, I just want to do a short poll because I can't show all the tools in the short amount of time that we have allotted to us. So I would like to know what you would like to learn. So if you go to menti.com and use the code 205330 and vote on what tools you would like to see, then I will focus on the ones that get the biggest vote to make sure that I'm not showing you stuff you don't want to see. And the tools, they're sort of grouped into, loosely grouped, let's say. So we've got the Blackboard discussion board, that's self-explanatory. We've got the wikis in Blackboard. Wikis are sort of a free-form web page that everybody can edit together. And then you've got Google Docs and Slides. And Google Docs and Slides I use heavily for collaboration, whether online or whether face-to-face. And so those are sort of collaboration tools. Then you've got Google Sites and Adobe Spark. These are to create content. So you're creating websites, you're creating videos, and you can do this together. So they've got the ability to collaborate. Now, see the code's just right at the top of the screen there, 2053. I'll put it into the chat box too so that you've got it. 205330. And then our next set of tools are those free-form bulletin boards, brainstorming tools like Padlet, Google Jamboard, and Meeting Words. So those are kind of fun too. And then also, of course, Microsoft Teams. So we're using Microsoft Teams today. A lot of folks are using this with their students to encourage collaboration, to enable them to have group projects and things like that too. Okay, so we've got 5 people have voted so far. Let's see how many people we have in the session. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, so we've got 6 people, so we're just waiting for one more to come through. There we go, 6. So let's see what folks have voted for. Okay, so we've got wikis and Google Sites and Spark and then Padlet. So I will cover as many as I can, but I just want to make sure that people are looking at the tools that they want to see the most. And no one wants to see the Blackboard discussion board. I'm not surprised. It's not the most dynamic out of all of them. Okay, thanks very much. And let's hop into Blackboard Wikis to start off. So I'm just going to sign in to one of my test courses here. And I'm over on the BB Teach server. If you've never been to the BB Teach server, this is where we do a lot of development, a lot of professional development too. So it looks exactly the same. It's just, it doesn't have all the same bells and whistles as the full production side of Blackboard. So if things look a little bit different, that's probably why. Okay, so wikis they've been around, I think, as long as the internet's been around. Wikipedia is probably the most famous one of all. And you can find them just in your course tools. If you scroll all the way down, you can see wikis are one of the tools listed. And you can see I've already created wikis in here where it's part of a group project. So each group will have their own wiki where they can go and collaborate. You can also have this as an assignment too. So let's say, for example, I wanted to create a wiki that was a sign-up sheet for something. So I can just go to Create Wiki, and this is not a graded thing, it's just a sign-up sheet. And I can call this sign up for a topic. So maybe it's a presentation sign-up sheet. So please sign up for a topic for your final presentation. Something like that. And when you set up a wiki, you get some options. So is it available? Can folks see it? Then yes. You can limit the dates, just like you can with many other things in Blackboard. Do you want students to have access to it? Well, that's kind of the point, is that the students are going to be able to collaborate on something like this. So I'm going to leave it open to editing so that a student can come in and edit and choose a topic. And you can say, is it open to commenting? Do you want students to be able to comment? Well, sure, why not? If they want to put in a little comment, they can. Down here is where you choose whether you want it to be graded or not graded. So I'll show you how we can use this for grading. I'll just show you how to use this not for grading for now. This is just a simple sign-up sheet, so I'm not going to be grading. Okay, so we've got our wiki that we've created down here, sign up for a topic. When I go into that wiki, nothing's in it yet. So I have to create just the first page of a wiki, and you can create a page with multiple, or sorry, a wiki with multiple pages if you'd like to. But for this, I'm just going to create a simple starter page for the students. And then here is where I want to get the students started. So maybe I want to put in a list of topics. Let's say I'm just going to put in a bunch of animals here. So students have to do a final presentation on an animal. There we go. So I'm just getting them started. And then typically we'd have a lot more topics than this, but you think you get the point. And so so this is what the wiki will look like when a student comes into it. And now they can come here and sign up. So I'll show you sort of how that would roll out for students. If it was a sign-up sheet for a particular assignment, you might want to add this to assignments. You might want to add it right to the course menu if you wanted to. To do that, you could just go into assignments, and maybe you want to add the sign-up sheet in here. So you can go to Tools, and then you'll see wikis in here. So you can see wikis through the course tools, like the main course tools, but you can also see it through the content areas too, if you wanted to add them in here. So we can come here, and I want to say I want to link to a specific wiki that I've already created. So I can say link to my sign up for a topic wiki, or I could create a new wiki from here too. And then next. So on this sheet, this is just saying, are you sure you want to deploy this? Do you want to set any details for this? And I don't want to at this particular time, so I'll just say submit. And now I've got my sign up for a topic is right down at the bottom. So if I were a student, if I enter student preview, I'm going to go to my assignments. My faculty member has told me I have to come here and sign up for a topic. I click on sign up for a topic, and there's the wiki that my professors created. And I can click on edit wiki content. Again, I get that sheet that my professor created, and now I want to sign up for this particular topic and say submit. And there we go. And you see, you get some notes here about who last modified it, when they modified it, and things like that. Over here, when you're faculty, you get to see the details of who edited, what they edited, what they added, what they deleted. So if you're worried about students coming in and deleting other students' entries, then you can track all that in the history of the wiki. So there we go. I've edited it, and now I can exit student preview. And if I go back in as that faculty member, I can see, oh, there's that student, she signed up for cats. And then if I want to see the history, oh, sorry, it's over here, participation summary. You can go in, and then you can see what Jennifer added. And I believe if you click on the name, it'll show you, what she added. You can compare it to version 1 and things like that. So you can kind of do some detective work if there's a complaint. So that's just sort of a simple sign-up sheet. Students can communicate to you what their topic is. You could also use that as an actual assignment too. So if I went into assignments and I wanted to add that a wiki assignment of some kind, I could go back to wikis. And this time I'm actually going to create a new wiki. So if I click on create new wiki here, and maybe I want the students to co-create a glossary together. So if I type in glossary and I say maybe, class glossary, and I can say this will be a glossary for all the industry terms we cover, something like that. Now down here where it says grading, now I'm going to say yes, now I'm going to grade this. And so let's say they're supposed to enter in a definition and examples and things like that. So maybe I want to give them 3 grades or 3 points possible. And then, show it to me in needs grading status. That's always helpful. I can add a rubric, of course, like you always can in Blackboard to any sort of assessment and have due dates and things like that. I can say submit. And I can say next. And that's asking me if I want to deploy it, that kind of final step it always asks you to do. And it's like, yep, I'm ready to deploy it. I do have to do one more step now, though. Remember what we did with the sign up for the topic? I have to go back in and I have to start it off. So I have to give it a home page of some kind. So this is where I can come here and I can say, please enter your term and term definition and example or something like that below. And then submit. So now a student will come along, they'll say edit wiki content, they'll add in their term and definition and example. That will trigger in my needs grading and I can go in and I can edit it and also have access to all that version history too, should there be any complaints about people deleting things. So I know that other faculty use this wiki type of example to co-create a list of review questions for an exam. So you ask students to enter in a question that they would like to see on the exam, and then maybe another student has to answer that question. So things like that where you're working together, because everybody can edit the pages together, then everybody has access to it and they can go in and add on and build on. And you can create multiple wiki pages too. You don't have to create just this plain one here. As you create wiki pages, they'll start to populate down the right-hand side under the main home page. So it's a pretty useful tool in Blackboard and using it for different things like sign-up sheets, but also for assignments where students can work together and create together. Any questions about wikis before we move on to Google Sites and Adobe Spark? No hands up or anything? All right. Good. Now, Google Sites and are you yelling at me, Hakan? Back over in Google Sites. Now, Google Sites, to find Google Sites.
Sorry, Jen,
yeah.
Can you go back to the previous page? I just wanted to clarify when it shows up in needs grading. Mm-hmm. Can you, I know you can kind of click on each student and see exactly what they entered. Is that how it shows up for Wiki?
Yeah, so I can show you. I'll go into student preview and I'll go to the assignment. I'll go in and I will edit. So here I would go in and say, this is my term, or I would make up a term and then give it a definition and then give it an example too. So let's just pretend that that's fully formed. Submit. So then I can see it there. If I exit, when I go into needs grading, it shows up right here, class glossary. And so I can click on that student's name. And then here, it will, if I click on, where is it? I can see it written out here. I think I can also just go straight to the glossary from here. So I can see the whole page here. but this compared to version 1 will highlight exactly what the student entered. So if for some reason you can't see what the student has entered because there's tons and tons of entries, if you go into, compare, that will highlight it for you. And then you can use the feedback over here to actually grade it, or if you added a rubric in, you could use that too. And then give them feedback and then grade it from here. Does that make sense?
Yep, thank you.
Great. Okay, so Google Sites. And Google Sites are part of the Google suite of tools. So we don't have an official Seneca license for them. So I just, I've had a Gmail account for 15 years or so. And so that's what I use to sign in. You can create 2 Google accounts. So you can create your own personal account and then just use your Seneca email address to create an additional, professional Google account if you want to keep them separate. I don't personally keep them separate, but I know a lot of people like to. So all I do is just type into Google Sites, and that brings me to the home base for Google Sites. You can also access it through Google Drive if you use Google Drive, but you can also come to the home base here. And what Google Sites is, it's sort of like an easy website builder. Now, easy is, subjective, but it guides you through building a website. And I find that students find this tool really easy to use too. I've worked with a bunch of students who've used these. So what it is I'll go into one of the Sandbox's websites that I have here, is you can create a website that has multiple pages. So this one has a ton of pages in it. And you can add content into these pages. You can embed videos, you can embed images, you can have links, you can have a variety of things in here. I use Google Sites for so many different things. I use it for my ePortfolio, I use it for learning modules, I use it for workshop resources, just tons of things. And one of the nice things about this is you can add collaborators. Share with others up here. And if you click on it, you'll see that I collaborate on this website with a bunch of people. So these folks also have access to this. Now think about how you could use this with your colleagues. So this is a Sandbox website that we all created together and that we use with faculty. We all went in, we added in our own content, and we all have access to edit it too. So if you're co-teaching or if you're teaching in a course that has multiple sections, you might want to put together a resource in Google Sites for your students. And I'll actually show you one that has been created at Seneca to be used in multiple courses. I don't know if anybody here teaches in the business program, but this is professional presentation skills, and this is considered the air quotes, textbook for the course. So this was put together for this particular course with the weekly resources, because they use all free resources. They use like TED Talks and Sandbox resources and different things they find online. So this was constructed for that particular course. And to share this with students, all you do is when you look at the published site, you get a URL for it. And so this URL can just be plunked into Blackboard and students can access this web page. So imagine you have a course that has tons and tons of course readings that are all free. Maybe they're available through the library, maybe they're just available online. And there's, lots of videos that you use from YouTube and things like that. You can come here and you can embed those into this site. Sandbox does do workshops on Google Sites, so if you'd like to learn the nitty-gritty of how to use it, you can either attend them yourself or send your students there. To find the Sandbox's list of workshops, you can just visit the libraries page, and then Sandbox is just listed right here. Under Sandbox, you'll see that there is a link to the webinars, and when you go into the webinars, you can look for the Google Sites workshops. So Google Sites is a great way. So Catherine asked, does this replace a lesson like PowerPoint? It personally does for me. So yesterday at Teaching and Learning Day, we used Google Sites for our presentation. So I'll pull it up here so you can see it. This is our presentation that we used yesterday, and I'll go into the public view so you don't see all the background stuff. So this was our presentation yesterday. And what we did is each tab is sort of like a new slide. So I would hop to this tab when I was ready to do this particular thing with the group. So I embedded a Padlet here. So we did a little activity throughout. And then we've got under this particular tab, I actually embedded a set of slides from Google Slides, because I wanted to go through some specific content in a presentation-like way. And then, you know, I just kept moving through the tabs like normal. You could embed Mentimeter in any of these tabs. You can sort of bring everything together using Google Sites. So absolutely, you could use it to create presentations or even online learning modules where students, you never see the student, they just go online and they go through the content that you put here. Google Sites is one of those ways that's kind of easy to bring a bunch of stuff together and compile it so that it has a bit of a logical flow to it. Google Sites, it's one of those things, once you learn it, you're going to find it very intuitive. So it's got like pre-laid out things that you can use here. It's got all this type of stuff that you can put into the pages, like collapsible text and images, and you can embed YouTube videos, and you can embed pretty much anything as long as it has an embed code on it. You can also insert things right from your Google Drive, like those presentations, like Excel files. It's, you know, got a lot of cool stuff you can put in. And anybody can view the content once it's published, as long as you let people view it. So there's settings up here where you can, you know, allow people to see things. I think it's under publish settings here. So I've got, you know, request public search engines not to display my site. Hopefully you can see this pop-up that's showing up. But under search settings, I've asked Google not to index this site in their search so that folks that are just searching online, they won't be able to see it. But if I share the URL with somebody, they will be able to see it. So you do have some controls over privacy, but it's definitely something that's easy for students to get to if they have the link. So it's kind of nice that it doesn't have the barrier for that. But yeah, Sandbox, they do workshops on Google Sites. We also teach it in one of the teaching and learning courses, the developing online materials for your course. We just wrapped it up last week. We'll be running it again, likely January, February. So you can watch the MyPD for that. That's taught by me and my colleague. And it's just a really powerful tool, and it's free. So it's kind of nice that we can go in and just sort of use it and create. And you saw there that I have a ton of sites that I've used over the years. I've used it for conference websites. I've used it for, you know, just regular presentations. I've used it for projects that I work on, tracking the news about that project. It's just one of those things that I always kind of pop in. The course, Catherine? Is that what you meant? Or yes, it's developing online materials. I'm typing it into the chat. Materials for your course. And I always type curse instead of course. There we go. So developing online materials for your course. Amy mentioned it this morning as part of the non-full-time faculty PD plan, but anybody can take it. So that's an option, and we cover a ton of stuff in that course, not just Google Sites. Now, Adobe Spark is kind of similar to Google Sites, but a lot less robust. So it's a lot sort of straightforward to use, but you can't do as much. So students can come in here and they can use this, but you can also use this too. So for example, for COM 101, I was teaching some faculty different types of things that their students could work on for assessments. And I would give a workshop. So I would create an Adobe Spark page, which is a long scrolling web page. That's what this is here. So you can see a long scrolling web page, and you can embed videos, you can have graphics, you can have text, all that sort of stuff. And this is what Amy used to do her presentation this morning. Students can also, or you can also use this as a presentation tool. So if I hit the present button up here, suddenly it becomes a slide deck. So as it loads, let's see if it'll load here. Now, as I hit the little arrows down here, it's almost like a slide deck. So instead of scrolling, it's a slide deck. So I've used Adobe Spark to create presentations, but also asynchronous modules where they have to go through and work through something. And the nice thing about Spark is that they've got a collaboration button up here. So you can click on the little person with the plus symbol, and you can add folks that work that have Adobe accounts, and everybody does because it's free at Seneca. And you can invite people to collaborate with you. And then when you do that, there's a special area under projects where you can see shared with you. So I've got one here that, Mary Trant shared with me just for fun because we wanted to try it out. But if you were working on a presentation or something with a faculty member, an asynchronous module with a faculty member, you could both collaborate on this. Unfortunately, both Google Sites and Adobe Spark are not synchronous collaboration. So I'll show you that later on where you can actually see other people working, but this is asynchronous. So I would go in, work on my stuff, it would be locked, and so Mary would have to wait till I was done, and then she could go in and make changes. I don't believe you can integrate Menti into Spark. It doesn't have that nice embed code functionality that Google Sites does. It has, you can embed like YouTube videos and Spark videos, and I think Vimeo videos, but I think that's about it. So it's pretty limited, but it is quick. So if you need to go in and create something super quick, I used the Adobe Spark post functionality to create banners for my courses in like 30 seconds. So it's got some nice, speed to it, but it's not very robust. So I do use it for a lot of presentations. So I have to present at ACC in a couple weeks. I'll probably use Adobe Spark because it wows everybody. They always think it looks really pretty. And I'll be able to collaborate on my co-presenter because we'll be able to share the presentation. And students can do that too. So those are two tools. I hear that Canva also has some nice integration where students can collaborate on things as well. I haven't been able to activate my account for some reason. I don't know what's going on with that, but Canva is another tool to explore if your students are doing anything that requires some sort of creative design thing, infographics or posters or invitations, things like that. And Adobe Spark is taught through the sandbox as well. So if you'd like to attend a workshop for that, or again, we cover it in the Developing Online Materials for Your course. Any questions about Spark or Google Sites before we move on? And it's a lot of tools that are being thrown at you, and I'm not saying you should be using all of these tools at all. This is just something where if you see something that catches your attention, you want to try it out for tomorrow during your time where you get to develop your presentation, then go for it. This is the time to try it, right? So if anything catches your attention, give it a whirl for tomorrow. Okay, so Padlet was another popular one. We've got Padlet, Meeting Words, and Google Jamboard. Padlet, I'm a huge fan of. I use it in many of my courses, and I use it for many different things. So this is an example of one that I used at a conference presentation where it was an icebreaker. So I was doing a presentation about open educational resources. So we wanted folks to get used to searching for free stuff online with Creative Commons licensing. So what we did is we asked them to go find an image and bring it back and cite it and throw it up on this wall. And what I did is I just created this Padlet and then I shared the URL with them, and then they came straight to this page and they clicked on the plus button and added something. So you guys can try it right now if you'd like. I'll put the URL in the chat box. You can just come to this page and, just type your name or type hi or type, wow or something like that if you've never used Padlet. I know lots of us have. But Padlet is a great way to have a collaborative activity in your class, whether it be icebreaker. You could also use this for a sign-up sheet. If you wanted students to sign up for a topic, then put the topics up and then they can put their name in the comment area. No, Hakan. So the history with Padlet and Seneca is that Seneca has been trying to get us a college license for Padlet since COVID happened. So this was one of the crisis tools that was identified as like necessary. And for some reason, there's an issue with the domain. Somebody already owns the Seneca domain address. And so our ITS department is leaning on Padlet to get us that domain back so that we can set up the college account. I know that they're working hard on it. So we're hoping that something's going to happen soon, but it's been a while that they've been working on it. So what I do is that I sign up for Padlet with my Seneca email address. You get 3 boards. You can recycle the boards, which is what I do most often. I also signed up for Padlet with my Gmail account so that I get 3 additional boards. So, you know, it's 6 boards. It's not that great if you want to use it a ton, but for now, that's what I'm doing. Hopefully, once Seneca gets set up, then we'll have as many boards as we need access to. So that's that one Padlet. And then, you know, this is another Padlet. So this is a course I teach, Teaching with Technology 1, and this is our first day Introduce Yourself activity. So you go and you find a picture that, you know, represents you, and then you come back here and then you paste in the picture and then you introduce yourself. So again, you just share the URL with folks and then they can click on the plus symbol. I also put it into that presentation I did yesterday. You'll see under the Gathering Your Tips here, that's another Padlet there. And then folks can come and they can just type stuff in. I've also used it in asynchronous modules too to collect information from people. You know, what do you think of this video? Things like that. Meeting Words is kind of a neat tool. It's also free, and this is something where you can share a link with your students and then they can do group note taking. So you can see this is from a past session that I did with somebody. So let's do one today. I'm going to paste, oh sorry, let me just reconnect here. I'm going to paste this link into the chat box and you guys can go and type to your heart's content in this Meeting Words page. And as you start to type in, you'll notice that colors will change and wherever you're typing will be highlighted in a specific color. There you go. I can also come in here and say, so I'm purple, there's someone there who's green. You can enter your name beside your color if you want to, then it's associated with that. So if you're, you know, if you want students to do some sort of group note taking together, maybe they're watching a video and you want them to record things that are happening together, you can do that here. It's a fun little tool. And it's free. You just go to meetingwords.com and, you know, say create a, I think it's a pad or something like that, and then you just share the URL with them. So that's kind of fun. The other one I wanted to show you was Jamboard, and Jamboard is another Google product. Yeah, it's similar to a wiki, but it unfortunately doesn't track things. So if I go in and I delete somebody else's stuff, you know, I think you can do a time slider, so you can say, you can go and see what changes were made, but I don't know who made the changes. So if I were to use this as a graded assessment and somebody else deleted other people's stuff, then that might be problematic. But yeah, absolutely. This is, you could totally come here and create a glossary together and things like that too. Jamboard is another Google product, and let me share this with you so you can come in and type. I've actually made it so that anyone on the internet can edit this. So I'll paste that into the chat box. And so if you come here, you can do things like add sticky notes. So it's like adding a Post-it note onto the board. So let's say you were brainstorming together and you wanted to come here and do some brainstorming. You could add some text like that. So just plain text here. You can add shapes and different things there. You can add images in. So if you wanted to do a Google image search, you can come here and collect images together. like that. Whoop. And the Post-it notes are kind of landing on top of each other, so we'll just move that around a little bit. And so this is a way where you can come and really, you could build mind maps together. You could just spitball together, things like that. And it could just be an icebreaker too. So you could say, all right, I want you guys to, build the best house in the world. And you got to use all the shapes and different things you find online. And then they work together to build something together on the whiteboard. Yeah. Very cool. Okay, what time does this session go to actually? I can't remember what time this session go to. Yeah, the different ones, it represents like who's adding different things in. 2:20 this goes to. Okay, so we've got some time left to do some more tools. Is there a feature like splitting two groups? No, but once your students split into groups, so let's say you're using Zoom or Collaborate Ultra to have breakout groups. Once they go out to breakout groups, they could create their own Jamboard in that breakout group. And then when they come back to the class together, they could share the link to their board so that they could show you what work they did. That's one of the problems with the Collaborate Ultra whiteboard is they can't bring it back into the main room. So Jamboard, it functions outside of Collaborate Ultra so they can do their own thing. Excellent. One thing I did want to show you is similar to some of the other stuff that we were talking about is Google Docs. So Google Docs I use all the time for collaborative activities, either in class, like face-to-face in an actual classroom, or online. So this is an example of one that I did for a conference where I gave everybody the link to this sheet, and to get that link, you just click on the share button. I used bit.ly to shorten the link over here, but it's the same sort of thing. Oh, that's kind of a weird. Let's try that. See if you can get in that way. There. Hopefully you can get to the worksheet from that link. Try it and let me know. And once you click on that link, everybody should get into this document together. So you can do some setup ahead of time where you set up a table, you set up kind of a format for the activity, and then whoever comes into this can start to type. So for this particular activity, I said, okay, everybody get into groups. It's just in the chat right above you. Did you not see the bit.ly/cflex 2019? Oh. So it's just this one here, Catherine, if you want to type that in to your browser window. Yeah, MS Teams chat is weird sometimes. Sometimes I find my chat box, nothing comes through. That happened to me once during a meeting and everybody's chatting. I'm like, I can't see anything. Anyway. So this particular activity, this was face-to-face back in the day when we were face-to-face, and I asked people to get into groups, and then they would pick a topic. So I'm the one who put the common challenges here, and then I also said you could pick your own if you wanted to, and then tell me who's in your group, and then go through and define the challenge, look at content, and talk about how this could be integrated. So I set up sort of the structure for the activity, and then students would go in and fill in the content. So you can type. Go ahead and type. This is an old presentation, so don't worry if you delete stuff. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know, Catherine. I don't know how to explain it. I know that happens in Teams sometimes. Yeah, so the anonymous shrew is typing, so everybody gets an animal assigned to them too. So anonymous dog, anonymous dinosaur, things like that. And so I'll show you another example of how I use this in an activity. This is Google Slides. So Google Docs, Google Slides, it's all the same sort of Google suite of tools, except this is sort of the version of PowerPoint. And I'm a big fan of Google Slides. So I was teaching this course for Dalhousie a couple years ago, and it was an online course I was teaching. And I set up this table, and I gave students access to this slide. So I just went up to share, and I shared the link, and I said anybody can edit. And on this particular slide, everybody collaborated together. So I would do a little bit of my presentation, and then I would exit out of my presentation and come to the slide, and everybody would type in definitions. So we co-created definitions together because not everybody defines things the same way. So folks would come here and they would type in what they thought it was. And so it was interesting to see how people thought different ways about different things. And then we would go into a little bit further into the class, and then we would do an activity. So the instructions were to break into groups, read their scenario, and then they had to design a class. And everybody got their own slide to type on. So group A got a slide, group B got a slide, and then they would come here and they would design their class, and then they would present from this too. So we were all in the same presentation, we were all working in the same presentation and presenting from the same presentation. So it's kind of an interesting way to think about collaboration, you know, because we're so used to using PowerPoint where nobody can access it. But Google Slides gives us that ability to do synchronous collaboration. So think about students that are presenting together. Using Google Slides is wonderful because everybody can create together. So I know I showed you a lot of Google stuff today. I'm not getting a cut, I promise, but I just find that the collaborative ability of it is so much better than things like OneDrive and Dropbox and things like that. What else we got here? Let's go back to the original. So we looked at Blackboard Wikis, Google Docs and Slides, Google Sites, and Adobe Spark, Padlet, Google Jamboard, Meeting Words. Now, MS Teams is, I think, a wonderful tool, and I'll actually pull up the MS Teams tabs from my presentation yesterday. So I presented yesterday with 2 faculty, and one of the faculty uses MS Teams heavily for his course. His whole program uses MS Teams. So we've got some instructions here on using this, and I can, I'll put this in the chat box. You should be able to see the chat box even after you exit, but I can send out a list of these links too. This is also being recorded, so we can always send that out. And what this professor does is he creates a team for the course, and then he creates a channel for each of the groups. So you know how today we have a team for the day, and then we have a group for each workshop, but also each group where people were presenting to each other. So creating the separate channels for each group. And that way he can actually go in and monitor how the groups are working together. So he sees all of the chat threads, he sees all of the transcriptions from the chat threads for the meetings that they have. So he can go in and kind of check in and say, oh, how are my students doing? I've also heard about students or faculty using Teams to create a team for their course because students are more likely to ask questions and engage when it's a chat sort of interface instead of a discussion board, which can be really stodgy, really kind of clunky. If you use something like MS Teams or Slack, you know, if you're a Slack user, you might want to use that instead, or WhatsApp or something like that. Whatever the students are using and wherever they will be, you might want to create like just a discussion channel where they can ask questions. Instead of sending you 20 emails, you'll have that kind of team for that class instead. MS Teams is becoming more and more expected at Seneca by students. So, I mean, from professors, professors are expecting their students to know Teams. So they are starting to get used to it a little bit more. Not everybody's used to it yet. Like today is the first time I've used it to teach. So, but more and more we're getting used to it. So there's an article here, 30 advanced tips for becoming a Microsoft Teams power user and things like that. I know I personally use it for a lot of the work that we do in the library and teaching and learning. It's our main form of communication now. So if you're not really into Teams and you haven't really, you know, been using it, it might be worth delving a little bit more into it because I think it's a really useful communication tool. And then students can also use it to work on projects together because it has some really neat apps and things that plug in like project management apps and things like that that can help them with their projects. So we've got 3 minutes left. Are there any questions about all this stuff? That's a lot. That was a lot of tools that we covered in a short amount of time. And I apologize if that went by too quickly. And feel free to, you know, turn your microphone on. Roxanne, you've got your hand up. You're still muted, Roxanne. Did you want to ask a question? There we go.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Oh, great. Yes, sorry. It was for some reason it wasn't working.
Okay.
So these sites that you're linking us to are just so great. Even.
Oh, I lost you.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So the training that I attended in the morning used like some really cool apps as well. Do you recommend any fun apps, just to try to, I mean, you mentioned so many here, but are there any other apps that we can do to like kind of engage students, especially for those 8 o'clock in the morning classes when they're feeling, they're so out of it?
Well, I mean, trivia games are always fun, right? So there's things like Jeopardy Labs. Jeopardy Labs is a free tool that you can use to create a Jeopardy game. So maybe you play Jeopardy first thing in the morning to get everybody kind of, engaged, and maybe it's a review from the last couple of classes, something like that.
Nice, nice. Okay, thank you.
H5P is another tool to delve into. It's also free. It's not as easy to use as the stuff that I've shown you today, and we cover it in that developing online materials for your course, of course. So it takes a little bit more getting used to, but eCampus Ontario has an H5P studio, and let me see, I'll just pull it up here. And it's even worth going in and looking at all the stuff that's been created by Ontario higher ed educators. So this studio here is only for college university professors in Ontario. So you can come in here and you can see things that have been created by other professors at, other institutions. So you can see Kevin Pitts has created all of these math things here. And if you go in, you'll see that there are a ton of different types of things you can create for your students. So there's quizzes, there's drag and drops, there's complete modules, there's interactive videos, there's about 41 different types of content you can create in H5P. And so you can do things like quizzes and fill in the blanks and drag and drops and things like that, or put together complete modules in here too. So it's definitely worth exploring. We teach it through teaching and learning. So we often do one-off workshops and things like that for H5P. So keep an eye out for that, or sign up for that developing online materials for your course. There's so many good tools out there for sure. Okay, so we are done. If you have any questions following this, feel free to reach out and I'm happy to answer any questions. You can get me through Teams, you can get me through email, whatever works for you.